Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why you need to get away from mainstream thinking when it comes to home ownership. So yesterday, I was actually doing a Zoom presentation online for Velocity Banking, and one of the participants in the call was telling me that he had two homes, right? He had two homes in Canada, and one was paid off, and the other one he still had a mortgage, and the mortgage was eating up about I think he said 50% of his income, if I recall correctly. Now, here's the thing about mainstream thinking. The way that the mainstream has you think is that the fact that you own a home somehow makes you wealthy, when in reality, you're wealthy, therefore you own a home, right? It's kind of different to what like politicians say. So have you ever noticed that like all the politicians are trying to get you into a home because they somehow think that makes you wealthy? Rather than, hey, you got to be wealthy in order to own the home. Because think about like if you have to pay mortgage, property taxes, insurance, if you don't have that money coming from somewhere, you're not going to be able to live and maintain and pay for your home. And because so many people, back in like 2008, 9, were not actually qualified to borrow to pay for their mortgages because apparently back then you didn't have you could if you just had a heartbeat and a pulse, they'd give you a loan, which to be honest sounds pretty sweet and horrible at the same time. Now, one of the things that we talked about during that meeting is that um, he was saying that, oh, one of the reasons I decided to stop renting because I thought renting was throwing away my money. Now, given he does really well for his situation, even though um, his mortgage payment is kind of half his income. But again, Canada is really expensive. I don't know anything about Canada, but I just know it's expensive. I just think of some of those places kind of like another Los Angeles or California up north, and it's colder, right? But one of the things that you kind of have to do is just do a basic analysis and comparison of whether renting or owning is better. And it's just really basic, right? But the people, the actually, let me say this again. The truth is that lots of people, they just don't do the basic analysis and they're so attached to the word ownership, right? Because the American dream in general is tied to home ownership. And so they're willing to overpay for it, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the San Francisco home, right? Look at the estimated monthly payment of 9 grand, and it just recently hit the market. And take a look at this ugly garage and driveway. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to park my car inside there. I feel like some kind of earthquake or tree root's gonna kind of pop up and then like hit my car. But maybe that's just me. Okay, so here's the thing: you can buy this home and get a mortgage for about 9 grand a month, or you can rent it out. And let's see the estimated rental price if we go down here for about 5 to 6 grand a month. What do you prefer? And he was talking to me, that gentleman who was on the call with me when I was doing velocity banking was like, yeah, the only reason that I bought is because I really thought that I was, throwing away money renting and I'd rather build equity. And so the question is, would you rather throw away money renting at 6 grand a month, right? Or would you want to build equity at 9 grand a month, right? And here's the thing: if you bought this house today and put it as a rental house, um, guess what? You're definitely going to have negative cash flow, and this is not the right house to buy for rental, especially in San Francisco. If you plan to be a landlord, not a landlord-friendly place because the court system in those areas just tend to side with tenants. And I don't know about you if you think this is worth $1.3 million or 1.4. But here's the funny thing, the value of a property has nothing to do with like the quality of the home, right? I don't know if you know this, but if you have like an area where the houses are like $30,000 and then you build this magnificent, wonderful house that costs you, I don't know, 90, $100,000 to build, the moment you hit the last nail, guess what? That house is worth $30,000 because um, the local comparable sales in the area is 30,000. And that actually took me a long time to kind of like understand because my understanding of value is just the amount of work that you put into it. I mean, that's kind of how they brainwash you in school, right? but the value of something has nothing to do with like um, what's in it. It's just what other people bought it for, and that was really hard for me to accept as well. Now let's just move on to this other article about how 0% of Los Angeles homes are cheaper to buy than rent. Right, so this just pretty much tell you you should always rent than buy a home, but because of the emotional attachment that so many people have to home ownership, they're willing to overpay for it, even though it makes absolutely no sense. You know, if I'm gonna pay 9 grand to own a home, why don't I just rent for 6 grand and invest like the 3 grand that I didn't have to pay on a mortgage? Like, what is the difference between renting and owning in this case? Because shelter is just shelter. I mean, the only thing that really is a benefit to owning a property is that you just have a little bit more control, right? But you don't even have that much control because if you do something that the city government doesn't want you to do, then you're screwed, right? This is why like you have to be careful where you buy real estate, but just not fall into the trap that somehow you're throwing away money renting, but paying overpaying for the privilege to own a home is somehow quote building equity, right? It's totally not that. So you kind of have to think about, certain things that I'm not going to talk about here, like rate of return. If you put in this much cash, how much do you get back? Maybe you get infinite return because you put little to no money down on a deal, right? Things like that, rather than, oh, I'm just renting and throwing money away, therefore I should buy. And, most Americans, they tend to overpay for real estate just because of the notion of home ownership being overvalued in this country, right? Like a home, especially this piece of junk. I'd never live here. Look at that garage. That's a nasty, well, to me, it's nasty because of that. It feels like it's not properly. I don't know what the right word is, but I just would not park here, right? But although in the inside, it looks kind of nice, but is it $1.4 million nice? I don't know, but because people are willing to pay that price, that's the market rate, right? But yeah, so just don't fall into the trap of thinking renting a house is throwing away money if the alternative is buying and owning a property and building equity at an insanely inefficient manner, right? Don't get tied with those words because that's like how the mainstream wants you to think. And I don't know if you've ever seen the study. I don't know why I keep laughing in all my videos these days, but I don't know if you've ever seen the study, but it says that 93% of homeowners in 2023 regret buying, right? 93%. Let's just write that again. 93% homeowners regret, right? Let's see what that study says. 93%. So let's just figure out what's going to be next year. But I'm pretty sure because most people um, just don't know what they don't know. They're just going to kind of go into it blind, which is kind of sad, right? But yeah, so yeah, don't ever think that it's always better to buy than rent, especially if the cost of buying is absurdly higher than the cost of renting because shelter is shelter. And if it's much cheaper to rent than buy, then do that. And maybe you could do something similar to what they talk about with life insurance, which is like buy term, invest the difference, right? Although I'm not giving you financial advice, but it's a possibility. You could just do the housing version of that life insurance quote, if that makes sense. And if not, no worries. If you're up to me, I'll be honest, I probably would just lived at home with my parents. But my parents used to kind of like nag me to death about how I need to get out of the house and make something of myself. And then when I did, all they did is tell me I have to like come home and visit family. Is that I don't know. Have you ever been in that situation? That's kind of the situation I'm in nowadays. Okay, well, that's it for today. This is Green Atlanta Mentorship. Have a great day, everybody. And also, if you're interested in joining our group, go ahead and click the Google form link below. Other than that, cheers.